Most women have felt it, that strange ache in the marrow, the quiet trembling beneath the rolls and masks. She can't quite name it, but it pulses in her, ancient and restless. Not loneliness, not sadness, something deeper, a call from the soul. And when it speaks, it does not whisper, it burns. A woman's soul does not beg to be noticed, it waits, patiently, silently. It observes from the edges of her smile, the softness of her hips, the way she moves through a world that has tried for centuries to tame her. But you must understand, the soul cannot be caged. Not truly. She may quiet it to survive, to please, to be loved. But when it rises, it does so like a tempest, sweeping through the corridors of her life and leaving nothing untouched. And often this awakening comes through desire. Not the kind sold in movies or seduced into submission by filters and feigned confidence. No, this is forbidden desire, the type that doesn't seek approval, the kind that threatens everything shallow men cling to. This desire speaks in the voice of Lilith, in the dance of Artemis, in the wild gaze of the woman who no longer bows. Carl Jung understood this. He saw that buried in the unconscious of every woman is the sacred tension between anima and animus, the feminine and the masculine within. And when a woman begins to integrate, to call back the disowned parts of herself, something magnetic happens. She becomes whole, and her very presence destabilizes the illusions others project onto her. A man may approach her, thinking her soft, pliable, there to fill his wound with affection. But this woman, the one who has danced with her darkness, does not rush to soothe his ache. She reflects it. She mirrors back the parts of him he cannot bear to face, and so he feels trapped, obsessed, drawn in and undone. This is the forbidden dance. When desire is no longer about performance but presence. When a woman's soul speaks, she does not seduce, she summons. Not with skin, but with stillness. Not with flirtation, but with fire. You might see her and feel something primal stir, as if the ancient gods are watching, as if your own soul remembers her. But be warned. What you feel is not lust. It is the yearning to return to yourself, and she is merely the mirror. For so long, women have been taught to perform desire, to make themselves pleasing, palatable, pretty, to smile when they want to scream, to nod when they want to vanish. But no more. The awakening has begun, and in the silence between her lips, entire generations of rage, sorrow, longing, and wisdom speak. This woman no longer chases. She remembers. She remembers the time before she betrayed herself to be loved, before she silenced her truth to be safe. And with every memory reclaimed, she becomes more dangerous, not because she seeks power, but because she no longer fears losing it. Her body may still play the old roles, mother, lover, muse, but her soul is now sovereign. And in this sovereignty, desire transforms. It becomes an offering, not a bargain, an embodiment, not an act. The woman who has integrated her shadow no longer needs to be wanted to feel worthy. She becomes want itself, not for others, but for life. And men feel it, even those who cannot name it. They sense the weight of her gaze, the stillness in her energy, the knowing in her presence. They come closer, not realizing they're walking into the fire of their own transformation. For this kind of woman does not entertain boys who have not met their pain. She is not impressed by performance. She is moved by depth, by integrity, by soul. So if you ever find yourself in her presence, trembling with fascination and fear, ask yourself this: is it her you're drawn to, or is it the man she forces you to become? Because this dance is not for the faint-hearted. It is for those willing to lose themselves, to unravel their ego, to face the anima that's been buried beneath years of posturing. It is for those who long not just to touch her skin, but to touch the sacred. And she will not lead you there. She will not teach you. She will simply be. And that will be enough to undo you. She does not chase, she emanates. Not like a flame that flickers to be seen, but like a furnace that roars from the depth of being. And this is what the unawakened man cannot comprehend. He is used to women who bend, who accommodate, who mold themselves into the shapes he finds acceptable. But she is not clay, she is fire. She does not bend, she burns. And so he tries to control her with charm, with fear, with the seduction of praise. But every tactic fails, because she sees through it. Not with malice, with clarity. The kind of clarity that only comes from integrating the shadow. The kind of clarity that exposes every lie we tell ourselves just to feel wanted. Carl Jung taught that the greatest danger is not the darkness we encounter, but the darkness we refuse to face. And this woman has faced it. Her trauma, her ache, her shame. She has sat with them like old friends. She has wept into her own hands without expecting a savior. She has screamed into pillows when the world asked for her silence, and in doing so, she no longer fears herself. But the man who has not done the same, he will find her unbearable, not because she is cruel, but because she is real. And reality, in its rawest form, demands presence. It does not coddle illusions. She will not mirror back his fantasy. She will reflect his fracture. She will speak the words he doesn't know he fears. She will look at him not as a boy longing to be adored, but as a man capable of becoming whole, if he dares. This is why he both desires her and resents her, because on a level beyond language, he knows she will not play the game. She will not soothe his ego while starving her own soul. She will not dim her light so he can feel brighter. She is not here to save him. She is here to be herself. And that, in this world, is the most radical act. You, listening now, have you ever felt the weight of being too much and not enough at the same time? Have you ever been punished for your power and pitied for your softness? Have you ever been told to tone it down, to wait your turn, to play it safe? That is not the voice of wisdom. That is the voice of fear, passed down through generations of women silenced by survival. But you are not meant to survive. You are meant to live. There is a moment in every woman's life when she stands at the threshold of herself, one foot in the old story, the other trembling toward the unknown. And it is there, in that trembling, that desire becomes holy, not the desire to be chosen, the desire to choose herself, even if it means being alone, to choose her truth, even if it means being misunderstood, to choose her soul, even if it means burning down everything built on pretense. And when she does, everything changes. Her body, no longer an object, becomes a temple. Her voice, no longer a tool for validation, becomes scripture. Her presence, no longer a performance, becomes prophecy. She no longer asks, "Am I enough?" She declares, "I am." And so she walks into rooms and shifts the atmosphere, not with arrogance, but with the quiet power of a woman who no longer fragments herself to be digestible. She wears her scars like scripture. Her laugh is thunder, her silence a storm. She is no longer waiting to be told she is beautiful. She has made peace with her reflection in the darkness. This is what happens when a woman's soul speaks. The world listens or trembles. There is no in-between. Men will come. Some will stay. Most will not. Because being near her is an initiation, not a comfort. She invites not the boy who seeks a mother in disguise, but the man who has buried his boyhood and built his own throne. Not from conquest, but from compassion. Not from power over, but power within. She does not need him, and that is what makes her so magnetic. Because in a world built on feminine dependence and masculine dominance, she chooses freedom, and only those who have freed themselves can stand beside her, not above, not beneath, but beside. He may not understand it at first, the way she looks at him without flinching, the way she hears the things he doesn't say and calls out the fracture between his words and his energy. He may confuse her presence with provocation, because she does not cater, because she does not soften truth to soothe his discomfort. But what he fails to see is that her gaze is not a weapon, it is a mirror, and in it he must decide, will he hide or will he rise? Because this woman, the one who has met her shadow and made art from the wreckage, is not drawn to the masks men wear. She is drawn to what lies beneath them. The brokenness they pretend isn't there, the dreams they abandoned for approval, the rage they swallowed because the world told them to be nice, not real. She sees it, all of it, and she does not look away. This is not seduction. This is soul recognition, and it terrifies those who have lived a life avoiding their own reflection. Jung believed that we do not become enlightened by imagining light, but by making the darkness conscious. And so when you find yourself pulled toward a woman like this, know that what you feel is not just attraction, it is an invitation. She does not want your charm. She wants your courage. She does not need your promises. She needs your presence. But be warned, she is not a healer, not a therapist, not a balm for your wounds. She is the storm that reminds you to heal yourself. And in her company, all falsehood falls away. The forbidden dance begins not with touch, but with truth. It starts in the way you look at her and realize she cannot be conquered. in the way you speak and feel the edges of your own voice sharpen or tremble. She is the mirror that reflects not who you pretend to be, but who you are when no one's watching. And if you are brave enough to stay, she will take you deeper into yourself than you have ever gone. She is not afraid of your anger, not your silence, not your sorrow. She has sat at the altar of her own agony. She knows that real intimacy isn't found in the exchange of bodies, but in the meeting of truth. So don't try to impress her. Try to be honest, not polished, not perfect, present. If you want to touch her soul first. Find the courage to name what you've buried, the shame you carry in your spine, the questions you've never dared to ask. Speak them. Not to gain her approval, but to reclaim your own integrity. Because she is not here to love the version of you you show the world. She is here to awaken the version of you the world tried to kill. This is the danger of her presence and the gift. She does not love like a lullaby. She loves like a reckoning. And when she gives herself, if she gives herself, it is never to be consumed, but to be met. Because when she opens, she is not opening her body. She is opening centuries of wisdom stored in her bones. She is offering you a glimpse into the sacred, the feminine that has bled and broken and risen, and now speaks with thunder in her throat. So many men will come, drawn to the fire but unprepared for the heat. They will ask her to be less, to need them more, to dim the flame so they can feel bright beside her. But she has done that before, and she will never do it again. Now she chooses. Not the loudest man in the room, not the one with the most promises, but the one whose silence is honest, whose stillness is strong, who has faced the night within himself and returned with a gentleness forged in fire. That man, he will not try to tame her. He will dance not to lead, not to follow, but to meet. Because the forbidden dance is not about dominance or surrender. It is about truth meeting truth, flame meeting flame. The animus in him bowing to the anima in her, not in submission, but in reverence. And in that moment, something ancient awakens, not lust, not need, but remembrance, of the way soul once recognized soul before fear taught us to forget. She does not speak often of what she knows, because to articulate such depth is to risk being reduced, and she has learned through lifetimes and losses that not all who listen are ready to hear. Some only come to take her light, to bottle her magic, to taste her power but not honor it. So she has become selective, not closed, discerning. Her silence is not a wall, it is a veil, and only those who see with soul, not eyes, may pass through. She does not seduce with words, she awakens with presence. To be near her is to feel the trembling of your own soul, to realize how much of your life has been performance. To touch her is to be asked, without language, are you true, are you whole, or are you still hiding? And if the answer is unclear, she will not shame you. She will not fix you. She will simply leave, because her energy is not a charity. For too long, women were taught to stay, to nurture at the cost of their sanity, to love the potential of a man while erasing their own. But she is done with that. She no longer confuses empathy with self-abandonment. She can hold space, but not at the expense of her own becoming. She has learned that she cannot pull a man into his depth. He must dive. Jung wrote that we must hold the tension of opposites, and she has become the embodiment of that tension. She is soft and unyielding, open yet untouchable, sensual but sovereign. And in her paradox, she creates the space for men to confront their own. She does not require you to be fearless. She requires you to be real. If you are still addicted to approval, you will not last. If you still chase conquest over connection, you will falter. She will see through it in a heartbeat, not to wound you, but to remind you, you can be more than this. And you, if you are still listening, ask yourself, are you ready for the kind of woman who cannot be controlled, only met? Because the forbidden dance of desire is not about pleasure. It is about truth. It is not a game. It is an awakening. Her soul does not dance to be watched. It dances because it remembers. The bloodline of wild women who came before her, the ancestors who were burned, silenced, shamed, she carries them in her bones, and with every breath, she reclaims what the world tried to erase. She is not yours to possess. She is the call you answer when you are finally tired of pretending. In her presence, there is no room for numbness. Your wounds will surface. Your pride will shake. Your defenses will crumble. Not because she attacks, but because she embodies what cannot be faked. Aliveness, consciousness, depth, and unless you have carved those into your own being, you will not know what to do with her. But if you have met your shadow and called it friend, if you have bled honesty and grieved your illusions, if you have shed the layers that made you lovable but not real, then you will recognize her, not as a conquest, not even as a woman, but as a mirror. You will see the same fire, the same ache for truth, the same hunger for a love that liberates instead of binds. And you will not fear her, you will honor her. You will not rush her, you will not shrink her. You will meet her, gaze to gaze, soul to soul. And in that space, time will fall away. There will be no roles, no scripts, only presence. Only two sovereign beings choosing to dance, not out of lack, but from the overflow of self. And that is the true meaning of desire. Not a hunger to possess, but a fire to witness, to merge without losing, to be consumed without vanishing, to burn and still remain whole. This the world does not understand. It labels her dangerous, difficult, delusional. But she is none of those. She is simply awake, and once a woman has tasted the sacredness of her own soul, she cannot be made small again. She cannot be silenced by empty promises or dazzled by hollow praise. She does not fear loneliness. She fears betraying herself. So she waits, not in desperation, in devotion to herself, to truth, to the dance that only begins when the music of the ego stops. There comes a moment, quiet, sharp, undeniable, when a man realizes he is no longer leading the dance, not because she resists, but because she no longer needs to follow. She moves with her own rhythm, one not taught but remembered, the rhythm of a woman who has shed the false self, the rhythm of one who walks beside the divine, not beneath it. She is not wild because she rebels. She is wild because she remembers a time before she was taught to fear her nature. Before her softness was seen as weakness, before her fire was labeled too much. She is not here to be understood by those who worship safety. She is here to remind you of what freedom truly costs and what it gives in return. In a world addicted to certainty, she is mystery, not chaos, not confusion. Mystery, the sacred unknown that demands humility and reverence. To be with her is to admit you do not know everything. You cannot control everything, and perhaps you never needed to. She will not demand your perfection, but she will require your truth. And in her presence, you will feel the quiet death of your performance. Not because she shames it, because it simply cannot survive in the light of her awareness. She sees the masks, and she waits to see if you will take them off yourself. Not for her, for you. Because when a woman's soul speaks, it does not plead to be loved. It commands alignment. And any man who stands before her must ask himself, is this desire or is this projection? Most do not know the difference. They see her confidence and call it arrogance. They see her boundaries and label her cold. They feel their own inadequacy in her presence and twist it into blame. But the awakened ones, the few who have sat with their own darkness long enough to see clearly, they recognize her for what she is. Not a temptation, a teacher, not a conquest, a catalyst. She does not destroy men. She destroys illusions. And only those who identify with their illusions will feel threatened by her. She is the death of the ego's hunger and the birth of the soul's yearning. She does not lure you with fantasy. She grounds you in reality. And in doing so, she becomes unforgettable. Because once you've met a woman who no longer needs anything from you, only the truth of you, everyone else feels like noise. There is no bargaining with her energy. No shortcuts. No seduction that can replace sincerity. You must arrive as you are, not as who you hope she'll believe you to be. Because the moment she feels performance, she will vanish, not out of cruelty, out of self-respect. She no longer chases potential. She honors presence. She no longer feeds on attention. She drinks from stillness. And she no longer seeks to be claimed. She claims herself fully. If you are brave, you will listen, not just to her words, to her silences, the spaces between her movements, the way she does not explain herself because truth does not negotiate, the way she walks away with grace because staying where love is not sacred is no longer an option. This is not the kind of love most people are taught to want. It is not loud, not performative, not easily packaged for public approval. It is the kind of love that empties you of everything false, the kind that leaves you bare and holy, the kind that builds not on fantasy, but on fire-tested foundations. To witness her is to witness what happens when a woman chooses her own soul over society's script. She may still ache, she may still long, but she no longer waits to be saved. She is the salvation she once begged for, and now she is sovereign. Carl Jung knew that to individuate, to become fully oneself, is the highest calling of the psyche, and this woman, this awakened, embodied, untamed force, is that calling made flesh. She has stopped asking for permission. She has stopped trying to be chosen. She has remembered that desire is not something to earn, it is something to become. And when you look into her eyes, understand you are not being tested. You are being summoned, not to prove your worth to her, but to rise into your worth with her. She is not the ending, she is the beginning. She walks alone, not out of bitterness, but out of reverence. Because to walk with her, you must have met your own shadow and kissed its mouth. You must have taken the long road inward through silence, through shame, through the aching stillness where no one applauds your becoming. Only there, in that dark soil, does a man grow roots deep enough to hold the kind of woman who cannot be owned. Her love is not given, it is recognized. It is not seduction, it is initiation. She will never beg you to stay. She will never plead to be seen. She already sees herself fully, and that is why her presence feels like gravity. It pulls you not toward her, but toward the parts of yourself you forgot how to hold. And this is where most turn away, because to love her is not to be adored. It is to be revealed, to be dismantled, to be stripped of everything performative until only what is sacred remains. She is not here to soothe your wounds. She is here to make sure you stop pretending you don't have them. So you must ask yourself, can you love a woman who is not afraid of her own wildness, who will not lie to make you feel taller, who will not break herself to keep your illusions intact? Can you love a woman who no longer needs you, but who might choose you? Because that is the final truth. She does not belong to anyone. She belongs to herself. Her love is not transactional, not desperate, not born from lack. It is a sovereign flame, and if you are not careful, you'll mistake its warmth for something safe. But safety is not what she offers. She offers awakening, and to the awakened, she gives everything. She gives you a place to rest, not because you have earned it, but because you have met her where she lives. In the unseen, in the uncomfortable, in the sacred space between longing and letting go. She will not complete you. She will remind you that you were never broken. And if you lose her, as many do, it will not be because she was too much. It will be because you were not yet enough for your own becoming. She is not a storm to be weathered. She is the sky that holds it all. And once you've danced with her, nothing lesser will satisfy you again. For she is not just a woman. She is the wild soul of the feminine, rising. And what then of the world? The world that still tells her to smile more, to soften her edges, to be grateful for crumbs of affection. She does not listen. She has walked through fire too long to return to comfort. She has outgrown survival. She has outgrown fear. She has outgrown any love that asks her to shrink. Now she chooses from a place of wholeness, from a place of deep knowing. And when she chooses not to seduce, not to please, but to open, it is not a gift you can earn. It is a miracle you meet only if you've first chosen yourself. This is the final paradox. The more she lets go, the more powerful she becomes. The more she detaches from needing love, the more magnetic she becomes to real love. Not fantasy, not addiction, but the kind of love that does not fear freedom. She no longer dances to be seen. She dances because she is. And as she dances, the world shifts. Men begin to remember their depth, women begin to reclaim their light, and the soul, the one that speaks in symbols and silence, finally has room to breathe. She does not wait, she does not chase, she does not plead. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.